Hey, everybody. So I'm joined today by Ryan Manchester. He is all things marketing here at Evolve, but one of the fun facts I learned about him very early on is that we have pets from the same rescue.
We
So
do.
we wanted to come in today, chat a little bit about our pets and the rescue that we got them from.
It's a
Because,
very easy topic to talk about.
yeah, Save a Lab is amazing.
Yeah.
How did you find them?
So actually, the job I was working at the time, their two dogs had come from Save a Lab, and I was looking. I was like, it was at the time where I was out of college. I was working my full time job, and I was like, I think now's the time I really want to, because we grew up with family pets, and so I think when you grow up with a family pet, it's a little bit different than owning your own. And I was like, I think I really want to try this out. And I had reached out to, they referred me, and I reached out to Rebecca. I said, hey, like next time, any litter, I'd love to, learn. 2 weeks later, I had dog in my hands, and it kind of went fast, and it was a little unprepared for it. But I don't think you can really prepare for getting a puppy.
Mm-hmm.
Um, when I got Oliver, he was 8 weeks. He had just turned 8 weeks, and I was living at home with my parents, and I knew I was moving out very like within the next couple months. So I'm like, is it really a burden I was gonna put on my parents? But I was like, it's time, and I did not want to pass up on getting him. As soon as I met him, I fell in love with him, and he
Mm-hmm.
fell in love with me. Um, it just kind of happened quick, and I was like, this is the dog I have to take home.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure you feel the same way when you met your dogs.
Yeah. Well, what's interesting is that I picked both of my dogs, and they both picked my husband. So I don't know how that worked
Yeah,
exactly, but Zola was the dog. I definitely picked her, and then my husband was like, "Oh yeah, we'll go meet her. We'll see how
yeah,
this works." And okay. You just keep putting that front up. And then when we went to go pick her up from the foster in Rhode Island, she came sprinting across the yard, ran right past me,
yeah.
paws up on his chest, and gave him a big kiss, and that was it.
It's funny you say that. I went with my best friend Jacob. I went with him to pick up Oliver. His name was Patterson at the time, actually. So we went into the backyard. He walked in first. We went through a gate in the backyard, and he opened up the door first and walked in. And she was holding him. Jacob walked in. I was behind him, and we'll text about this all the time. She'll talk about it all the time. She'll reach out like on his birthday every year. As soon as like Jacob walks in, I'm behind him. Oliver locks eyes on me and starts squirming, and he's like wants to get down. She puts him down. He starts running straight towards Jacob, goes right around him, and comes right to me. I knelt down, and he just jumped right up on me. And he was only 16 pounds, he's only this big.
Sure.
But she talks about it till this day. She's like, I've never seen a dog pick someone. And I'm like, he picked me, and I knew that was a dog I needed to come home with me.
Mm-hmm.
And then I brought him home, and he picked my mom. He loves my mom. But yeah, it was definitely like it's one of those moments that I think about all the time too. I'm like, I think I have no idea how our worlds collided that way, but I would not think I can't imagine this world without Oliver. And it's funny when people are think about adopting, but you don't realize that impact and how much of a change of life. Like I can't even imagine what my life would be like without him.
Mm-hmm.
But
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I mean it was definitely crazy for a little bit.
Yeah, but I mean, puppies. There's a reason I don't adopt puppy. I love puppies, but they're
Yeah.
a lot of work.
How old were your dogs when you adopted them?
Zola was about 4 and 3.5 ish, 4-ish.
Yeah.
I never really know exactly, but and Zoe came along about 3 years later,
Yeah.
and they're both about the same age. They
Yeah.
7-ish.
Where'd they
Yeah.
come from? Do you know where their origins were?
So they were in Louisiana.
That's where Oliver's from.
Mm-hmm. And they were foster. Well, Save a Lab has a whole foster network because
Yeah.
they don't have buildings anywhere. But
Yeah.
yeah, they were both in rural shelters. Zola, I believe, was an owner surrender.
Yeah.
Not entirely sure, but and then she had heartworm disease, so she was at her southern foster for quite some time. Just
Yeah.
getting well and that kind of thing. And then she made the journey up to Rhode Island,
You
and
know,
we picked her up from there. And then Zoe was in a rural Louisiana shelter as well. She was actually going to be euthanized, and
oh
the
wow.
woman that pulled her from the shelter was there picking up a litter of puppies. This particular fosters not only for Save a Lab but for a number of other rescues as well.
Yeah.
And there was Zoe sitting in a crate, skin and bones, with one of her puppies and I guess a couple of other puppies as well. And she was sitting in the crate with a stick wedged in her mandible. So her whole mouth was so infected.
Oh my God.
They couldn't even feed her. And the foster that was there picking up this litter of puppies said, "Well, tell me about this other dog," and they were going to put her down because, of course, if there's no rescue involved, these shelters can't take them on. And she basically asked for forgiveness instead of permission and said, "Just give me the dog," and then called Rebecca and said, "I have this dog, and can we help this dog, and what can we do?" And some number of months later, I got an email from one of the adoption coordinators. And what I thought was interesting is that I had applied for a second dog. My husband was, dare I say, not very much on board at the time. And then the dog I applied for originally, the timing didn't work out.
Yeah.
And I think secretly my husband was like, "Whew, thank goodness for that."
God, yeah.
And then I got this email from the adoption coordinator sometime later, and it was the one thing I noticed right off the bat is that the email was sent only to me, not to a list of people that were pending.
Yeah.
And we have this special dog, and what do you think? And here we are. We picked her up. She has the craziest thing is, one of the things we were very concerned about, I spent a lot of time talking to our veterinarian, she has no soft palate from all the surgery.
Really?
So if she rolls on her back, like a lot of dogs do to rub their belly and her mouth opens a little bit, you can literally see her nasal passages from the roof of her mouth. It's the craziest thing. Even the veterinarians here are just like, "This is wild. We've never seen anything like this." But I asked a lot of questions because I was very concerned about what am I getting into? How sick is she going to get?
Yeah.
What does the future look like for her? And she's been fine. She has been fine. Unaffected by the fact that she has no roof of her mouth, other than the fact that she sneezes a little bit more than the average dog, which is completely disgusting at times, but it is what it is.
I guess that's one thing a lot of people don't really think about is, and I can say that's probably something I wasn't really prepared for, and that's why I really wanted a puppy. I wasn't prepared for, taking in and adopting an older dog, and I think that's a topic for a whole other topic for another time, is the time that goes into this dog had its whole life for how many years before you. And again, like, if you hadn't taken that dog and hadn't adopted, like, what were they have been the quality of their life, where they have gone, what would have happened to them? And it's like someone like me, who I just wanted, I was very immature at the time in a certain way. I was like, I just want a puppy, I want a dog. And I was like, but now Oliver's turning 4 in a couple months, and I'm like, I think about it, I'm like, I can't imagine like what his life could have been. I don't know, it's sad to think about, like, there's dogs that don't get to make it out there. And that's why, like, I love Save a Lab. They use their network is crazy. They will do anything and everything they will to get a dog and to get it where it needs to be and give it a good home. And it's always mostly like success stories.
Yeah, 100%. I love how, in the beginning, I didn't necessarily understand it, but I fully appreciate it now in retrospect.
Yeah.
The methodical process that they go through to make sure that there's a pretty high chance that the adoption is going to be successful.
Yeah.
I think that's incredible, and you're right. There's so many animals that don't make it out of these shelters.
Yeah.
And I don't know if it's ignorance or apathy in the South.
Yeah.
I just don't know how you combat that.
I don't, and that's like, I'm the type of person, like, if I saw a dog on the side of the road, like, unfortunately it's coming home with me, and luckily that hasn't happened because I don't have room for many more dogs. But I think that's where my next journey will be, is I'd love to rescue more dogs that are, I don't want to say I was picky when I was choosing a dog, but it was my first dog and I wasn't sure what I wanted to do. I didn't really have much knowledge in it besides my family dog. And a family dog when you're growing up is your parents' dog, and you just play with it. But now I think I'm in a better place with my boyfriend as well, where I'm like, we'd like to get more dogs. Unfortunately, I don't have the room for it at the moment.
Right,
Obviously, getting a house is a whole nother story, but I think that's one thing we want to do, is I want to have more dogs, and I kind of want to, I don't want to have to think about, do I have the room for this dog? If I can't take this dog, where's it going? Like, I want to be like, it doesn't have a home. Yeah, I'll take it. Come live with me. Even if it's in, like, reaching the end of its life. You know, my family dog passed away in 2016. We had gotten a rescue. She was on the much older side. She lived probably 3 more years with us, and then she ended up passing as well. Um, but she was on the older side, but she had a horrible life, a horrible, horrible life. When we got her, I remember my dad brought her in the house in a crate. He had to wear welding gloves to carry the crate because she was a small little Pomeranian, but she was unfortunately badly abused and had a
Gosh.
horrible, horrible life. Cut to the 3 years we had her, she had the best life. I hope that wherever she is now, that in her little head that she doesn't remember anything prior to those 3 years.
Right.
She had the best life, and like I'd love for that to be like every story for every dog, but I think Save Lab is definitely making that happen with many cases. But
Yeah, you can't save them all, but they for sure try.
oh
I
yeah,
I mean what I love most about that rescue, and I'm sure it's not just Save a Lab, but for sure, anytime there's a
yeah,
request put out there, hey, I need a transport, hey, I need dog food, hey, I need
yeah,
a foster, someone remarkably always steps
oh
up.
yeah,
I,
from all across the U.S.
yeah.
And I think that a lot of people, like, I never really expected was like the alumni group.
Yes.
Any questions I've ever had about my dog, like I don't need to call my vet. If I had to, obviously I would, but I'm like, there's the support there, and like the just, and also not to mention his litter mates are all a part of that group as well. So I get
Hmm.
to see how they've all grown up, and hey, like I can ask them like, hey, Oliver's been doing this lately. Is this something that your dog's been experiencing? And most times, yeah. But
Hmm.
it's a great network. It's just crazy the network of
Hmm.
people and the love that comes from that community of people that believe the same thing we do and love the same thing.
Hmm.
But it's funny that our paths crossed in the way they did,
Yeah.
so we can hear and do this podcast. But yeah,
Yeah, and that group is very engaged
oh yeah,
too. It's one thing to just put everybody in a Facebook group, but that group is always posting
oh yeah,
stuff from the funny memes, which
yeah.
Rebecca has to step in occasionally and say, "Listen,
I know. This is what this is for.
yeah," but it's great. You see the
Yeah,
puppy photos and the adoption photos and hey, so and so just turned
oh yeah,
6, and sadly you do see the posts of, hey, we had to
yeah,
help someone over the rainbow bridge, but it's just great, the support and the connectiveness and
yeah.
the fundraising.
Oh my god, I know.
She can get turnout to a fundraiser in a minute.
I give her a lot of credit. She has a full-time job as well.
Yes, they all do.
Yeah.
None of those people get paid that help her.
No, and it's the amount of work they do, it's crazy.
Hmm.
And that's why, like, again, like getting a little further into my life, and I think I want to try and help much more in a way that I can. Obviously donating is the best way you can help those kind of foundations, but I'd love to be a foster at one point.
Hmm. Hmm.
Again, I don't have the room for it at the moment, but that's definitely my sights.
Yeah, it's funny you say that because recently I saw a listing. Maybe it was in Alabama or Georgia, wherever it was. It was somewhere in the South. And I remember sending it to my husband and saying, we could move. Do you know how many dogs
I know.
we could foster for Save a Lab? Because it was set up as either a doggy daycare or it had
Yeah,
kennels. I said, oh my gosh, this is perfect. We could do this.
yeah.
We're not ready for that
I think
now.
I'd probably be the worst foster ever because I don't think I would be able to let any of them go.
Yeah.
Um, I don't know. I love dogs. I love my dog so much, and I'm like, I know the life I've given him, and I'm sure like I feed him 5 minutes past his dinner time, and he probably thinks otherwise. But I love that dog, and I would do anything for that dog. And it's
Hmm.
like, I wish I could just do
Yeah.
more of that. But that's why Save Lab is great because you can see what everyone's doing, and
Hmm.
you can learn from it.
Yeah.
But yeah,
I feel like I'll always have dogs in some way, shape, or form in my
yeah,
life. When I imagine that when I get older, because my biggest fear is passing away, and then no one wants my dog, or my dog has no,
yeah.
and then we're in the loop of now my dog gets taken to a shelter. So I feel like once I get to a certain
I have
point,
never thought about that before.
I'm not there today, but at a
Better not
certain
be.
point, I'll go into foster mode. where
Yeah.
I'll always kind of have them around. And then if I want to travel,
Yeah.
I can have dogs at my leisure and not have
Yeah.
to worry about.
That's a beautiful way of thinking about that. I've never thought about that before. Like again, like it's, luckily I have a family around me and I know you do too. It's like, but what happens to those situations where someone's not there?
Hmm.
They go into that system.
Yep.
But yeah, that's
Especially the elderly folks. Like a lot of their family has passed. Maybe their kids are out of state.
yeah.
Maybe a lot of their friends have passed. It just depends on how old they are. But yeah. So you see a lot of senior dogs that just, owner passed away and now this dog is here and
I know.
completely confused. And I'm thinking to myself, oh my gosh,
I
if
have a
it,
home for you.
well, yeah, yeah, you'll find a home. You'll
Yeah.
find a home. But yeah.
Yeah. I think that's one thing too is like I think, everyone always talks about like my father always said like everyone has their one soul dog, like their soulmate dog. And I'm so happy that I have him now.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I'm also sad at the same time because I would love to see him with my children.
Mm-hmm.
He turns 4 in July. I know I have plenty of time, with him, but it's like, would I have like, I have my soul dog now. And I think that's, better than anything else. Like, because
Mm-hmm.
all the times I think about like, I'd love to see him run around the yard with like my kids one day and, see him like be a part of a family. Cause right now it's just my boyfriend and I and
Mm-hmm.
Oliver. But I really think like having him now, I mean, I can't imagine where I'd be without him, which it's crazy because someone's gonna listen to this like that's just a dog. Like that's my best friend.
Yeah.
Like, and I think getting him now and helping me through my 20s and 20s are not easy. And,
Yeah. It's a weird time
it
in
is.
life for
Yeah,
sure.
you're still feel like a kid. I mean, I'm 27. I'll be 28 in June. Um, so I'm almost 30. So I can't say it, but part of me still feels like I'm a kid. Um, but I think getting Oliver has really kept me grounded and kind of given me that stability in my life where I'm like, everyone in their 20s like, oh, I'm gonna go out and I'll be with my friends all day, or I'm gonna go out drinking, or I'm gonna do this all day, and it's like, no, I want to go home and lay on my couch with my dog.
Mm-hmm.
Like he needs me. Like he doesn't need me, but he needs me. Like he knows I'm like coming home, and he looks forward to that. So it's
Mm-hmm.
like, I think getting your soul dog at one point is something you'll realize once you have it.
Mm-hmm.
It's not just a dog. Like that dog knows me and I know him. And that's one thing too, is like my boyfriend will tell all the time and he's like, what's wrong? I was like, I don't know. I can feel he's off today. I'm like, I just know something's off today.
Mm-hmm.
And whatever it is, but he probably feels the same way about me.
Yeah.
But that's my soul dog.
Yeah.
Like I'm happy I have him now and I'm like, if I could give every dollar I ever make to Save a Lab just for saying thank you for connecting us, I would.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and that's why Rebecca and the whole team and the whole Save a Lab team and his fosters as well. Like I am so grateful that we got connected
Mm-hmm.
because again somehow like he came from halfway across the U.S. and landed in my lap, and somehow our worlds just collided that way.
Mm-hmm.
And I would not trade that for the world. But it all came from someone's hard work,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm forever grateful for that. So
And I don't think people realize how much work
oh
it
yeah,
is. I mean, we see all the photos, the what do they call them? The rescue, when they pull them out of the shelter.
yeah,
There's a name for that. It's escaping me right now. But freedom rides.
yeah.
You see those videos and you see the fosters caring for them. There's one foster down in I want to say she's in Louisiana. Her name is Amy, and she has the most amazing pool. Because every time I see her videos, it's like doggy spot. They're all leaping into this
Yeah,
pool,
yeah.
and it's got a fountain, and oh my gosh, I want to be fostered by Amy. Like if I come back in my next life as a dog,
I want to end up
I
in
want to live
Amy's
with
pool.
her. But it's amazing the commitment that they make.
yeah.
And so these fosters sometimes have 2, 3, 4 dogs,
Yeah,
and they have their own dogs
yeah,
that they own themselves, and just the coordination that it takes to pull off some of these rescues is nothing short of a miracle. And I'm glad that
yeah.
I'm glad that
But it's also just like it's crazy, like the network of people. Because again, like Rebecca will put out, or so you'll see someone put out, and I'm like, hey, we need, so and so is in XYZ. Anyone know anyone there that can transport to point B? And it's like, and nine times out of 10 works out the way that it
Yeah.
needs to, and they end up here,
Yeah.
and then they end up going to a home. But it's crazy seeing the amount of hard work that people put in, and
Mm-hmm.
it's I say hard work. I think that all comes from love.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think hard work and love are the kind of the same aspect on that. Like I think that comes from true love.
It's blood, sweat, and tears. I have to imagine for
Yeah.
sure.
Oh my
There's
God.
a
Yeah.
lot of tears in the mix as
Yeah.
well. You know, when dogs don't make it, they've
Of
rescued
course. Yeah.
puppies with parvo. It's just they try, but
Yeah.
it is sometimes it just doesn't work out.
That was one of my
Unfortunately,
biggest fears was, you get your puppy or you get your dog and then, you have them and then you know what? But
something happens.
yeah. But the love that like comes from that group of people is just brings you like kind of gives you like more of a purpose in a way too.
Yeah,
But yeah,
I've never seen it with any other rescue either.
I haven't either. That's what
And
I
I
think that's
follow
why
a lot of them, but
yeah.
and I don't know, maybe it's just I have a connection with them on a deeper level now that I'm an alumni and I have two of their dogs. Could
Yeah.
be that, but even prior to adopting these dogs, I've never seen
Yeah.
anything like it. The support that Rebecca has
It's
and
a
the group.
community. It's
Yeah,
community of like people who share the same, love and interest and do the same thing. But yeah, I've never seen it before either.
yeah.
But I mean, even we have agents in the office that donate to Save a Lab, and that I had realized that prior to me meeting you,
Mm-hmm.
and I was like, "Oh, you donate to Save a Lab?" I'm like, and she, "Yeah, I always donate to Save a Lab. They're great." I'm like, "Yeah, my dog's from Save a Lab."
Yeah,
But
yeah.
yeah, it's interesting. But
It's great too.
yeah,
So happy to be part of that group.
me too.
So happy to be part of that group.
And again, I feel like I would be a part of that. I would want to. I'm grateful I'm able to be in the alumni group.
Yeah.
But I feel like I'd want to be a part of that group even if I didn't have one. Um, but yeah.
Yeah. It's funny because I was sharing this story with someone else recently. The first time my husband and I ever adopted a dog, it was a completely different experience. It was probably about 15 years ago. And we saw the dog on the internet. We called. The rescue was in Ohio, somewhere in the Midwest. Anyway. And it was literally, oh, okay, you want the dog, just PayPal us the money.
Yeah.
And then they put the dog on a bus, a van, and we met the van off of I whatever
Yeah.
in a parking lot in Connecticut, and it was, here's a leash, here's a packet,
Good luck.
everybody good luck. And he was my soul dog. It's funny that you were talking about soul
Yeah.
dogs. I used to tell him all the time, I would hold his face and be like, you're my little soul,
Yeah.
We had him for about 10 years, but we had some challenges with him we first got him, behavioral things, and they didn't have an alumni group. There was no one really to reach
Yeah.
out to. And, we just said, okay, we committed to this dog. We're going to go find a trainer. We're going to go try to figure it out. We did, but
Took time.
it took time. We were a little lost for a hot minute, not really sure what to do. So the idea that this rescue has a group of people that you can go to and say, I'm having this problem. How do we solve it? Do you have
Yeah.
any recommendations? Is just, I think it's great. And I think it contributes in large part to the success of these adoptions because people have a place where they could go to ask
Yeah.
questions.
That's one thing I thought about too, because like when I had gotten Oliver again, he was my first like adult dog. He was my first dog. There was a very brief period of time where I was like, what did I do? That was obviously during the puppy teenage stage, and that was when he was tearing into everything and just kind of being a terror. I say that he was being a terror, but he honestly wasn't that bad. But again, between a full-time job and kind of just doing it myself, luckily my mom came in and like helped. I was preparing for a move in a couple weeks as well, so I was like, I have this puppy who's a pain, and I cannot leave alone for 2 seconds, or else he's going to destroy everything or hurt himself. But there was a brief period of time where I was like, what did I do? I was like, I'm way in over my head. And then sure enough, he just calmed down.
Yeah.
He just calmed down. And I think about those days because I had met my boyfriend not too long after. Oliver was about 6 months. And he says, I wish I was around for the puppy stage. I'm like, no, you don't. It was sometimes awful. It was awful. Not even it was awful like him. Like I was so panicked all the time. I remember I used to wake up from nightmares because I was like, oh my God, he like picked up a pill off the floor, or he ate something he shouldn't have, or I was like, I was so paranoid for so long having a puppy, and it's like, I am now this little tiny thing's like I give this thing life in a way, like it cannot survive without me. Um, but I'm like, I would do it all over again, over and over and over again. Now that I know a little bit more. But I was always around dogs, so I had a good idea, don't feed them this, don't do that.
Right,
But you
right.
don't really, I just kind of dove into it. And I wouldn't ever change anything I did. Maybe a couple things here and there. But yeah.
Yeah, I think if you think about it too much, though, you'd talk yourself out of it.
Yeah. And I'm sure, like, again, I'm sure I wasn't like perfect. Like maybe, like I was at work for too long, but he sat in the crate for 2 minutes longer than I would have liked to him to been. But he ended up being perfect, and he is like the sweetest dog ever, and I'm thankful for that, because I'm like, like, unfortunately, to his own demise, like I always get nervous because if we're in the park, or like other dogs came around, like he's very much like been around other dogs, but like I don't think he would know what to do in like a tough situation. For instance, like even if like my house got robbed, I don't think he knows what to do, because he is just the sweetest little peanut ever. I say he's a peanut. He's 80 something
I was gonna
pounds.
say he's not a small dog.
No, he's a very big dog, but that's his persona. He's just like this sweet little thing, and like I don't know. I have to think about that. I'm like, I joke about it all the time. Like, if ever a house got robbed, I'm like, he would just sit there and watch, because he loves people.
Yeah, yeah,
But maybe I teach him a little bit different on that aspect. But
yeah.
yeah,
It's funny because my dog, they say that in every household with two dogs, there's the old soul and then there's the crackhead.
yeah,
Well, Zola is definitely the old soul,
yeah.
not the protector of my house whatsoever. She's not getting up.
Just happy to be there.
Just happy to be there. If she would lay in the sun, and if somebody would sit in the sun and rub her belly all day, she would be fine.
Yeah.
Zoe, on the other hand, is the crackhead of
yeah.
the group. And I was a little bit relieved recently because a door-to-door salesman showed up at my house, and she was right at the door barking
Yeah.
with a bark I've never heard come out of this dog's
Oh,
mouth.
yeah.
And I was sitting in my dining room, and I could see the walkway to the front door from where I was sitting. And I hear the dog barking, and the salesman just backed right up.
Yeah.
Saw her face and her, she's 80 pounds too, not a small dog. And he left
Yeah.
real quick. And I said, oh, thank God. I have one that will save us.
So it's funny because everything I just said about if someone broke into my house, Oliver would just sit there and watch. The second he's around my mother, he is like on full alert.
Really?
He is so protective of my mom. My mom, so he'll go there when I'm at work sometimes, or Zach's away on business. I don't ever like to leave him home alone. He doesn't have to be home alone. My mom lives 5 minutes away from me, and she loves being a grandma. So I take him there, and he spends the day there. The second that anyone walks by her house or like drives by her house, he's on full alert.
Really?
And it's good because I'm like I always joke about, because like when he comes home, he's like this spoiled grandkid. He comes home and he's such a prima donna, and I'm like I always call my mom and joke. I'm like, what did you do to him? He comes back like a little brat, and she's like, I don't do anything. I was like, of course, because you don't stop him from doing anything. But it's so funny. She's such a typical grandmother with him, and my boyfriend's family is the entire same way with him. Like Oliver can do no wrong.
Yeah.
He barks, she encourages him. And I'm like, please don't do that. And she's like, he lets me know when people are walking by the house. I'm like, he doesn't need to do that.
Yeah.
And so then I'll pick him up, we'll come home, and I'll be walking with him like inside my building. So we live in a big apartment complex. We're all the way on the 4th floor. And so we live right by the park. So he can see the park and the water by our window. And he'll just stare at the window and bark. I'm like, why does he do this? I'm like, he doesn't normally do this. But the second he's at my mom's house, he can do no wrong.
Right.
Oliver can, is ruler, so he does whatever he wants. Then he comes home. But yeah, so there's no one really to put him in his place. And I never yell at him, and I never tell him no either, because I don't really have a reason to.
Right.
But yeah, it's funny watching them like have their little personalities like that too. Oliver has a little bit of the old soul and crackhead. It just depends on the day.
Yeah.
He's an old soul. My boyfriend works from home, so Oliver's an old soul with me when I come home. But apparently, I'll come home and Zach's like, oh my God, he was all over the place today and he did this and this. And I'm like, oh, so he was the crackhead for you
Yeah,
today. It
yeah.
just depends because he
Got it.
knows, yeah. But he comes home and he's all sweet and nice for me. He wants to cuddle and just kind of lay down. I'm like, thank God. But yeah,
Yeah.
it's funny how they interact with different people in your household too. Zach's always thinks he's the favorite, but he knows I'm the dad. So
It's funny because when my father-in-law comes over to visit, we might as well not exist. My husband
oh
and I
yeah,
we could just leave and it wouldn't matter.
yeah,
They just, Zola's in his lap and, Zoe's at his
yeah,
feet and we could, like I said, just leave. They would not know that we left the
yeah.
building.
They pick random people too. Like Oliver loves Zach's little sister Ashlyn. He loves her. Like we'll just be on FaceTime. We'll say like, "Where's your Ashlyn?" We're like, "Where's Ashlyn?" And he'll stop and he'll go run wait by the door. And like she's 2 hours away in Connecticut. She's at UConn right now.
Yeah.
But we always joke about like we just drop Oliver off at your dorm and he'll live there and she'd be happy as pie. But yeah, it's great seeing that like he's turned into a good gypsy as well. I can because I was in a long distance relationship for a while too. So when I had met Zach, he lived in Connecticut. I was here in Mass. So we would take the 2 hour hike and we would stay there. But Oliver just kind of makes home anywhere, which I wonder if that's ever because where he came from. But I say he was too young to know that long car ride.
Yeah,
So who knows?
yeah.
But he's a perfect gypsy. Wherever he goes, I take him to the office sometimes and he just sleeps on the floor. But,
Yeah, and it's great that you don't have to worry about car sickness. Some dogs suffer from that, so at least you can throw him in the car and.
not so much car sickness. We deal with the other end.
Oh. Yeah. Yikes.
So that's been our ongoing.
So he's
issue.
fine when he lands, but at wherever you're going, but like the travel can be a little bit of a challenge.
Yeah. Yeah, so that's really he seems to what's funny is we talk about all the time is he seems to have gotten very anxious in the car after he got neutered. Which is very weird. I'm not quite sure why.
It's an interesting correlation.
Yeah. It's not bad at all. He just kind of heavy breathes and whines a little bit in the back seat.
Yeah.
I just feel bad because I feel like I'm putting my dog through an anxiety trip for 2 hours.
Right.
But yeah, then he's knocked out for the rest of the day, so it's great, and he sleeps all day. But
Yeah.
but no, it's good having a dog that just very. I will say that all the time is like he's such an easy dog. He's so easy. Made it a lot easier for me too, and I feel like if I ever got another dog one day, it was like I'm never gonna have it as perfect I have it now. But I think Save Lab for all of that, and like.
Yeah. Well, you'd go back to Save a Lab probably and say, hey, I
Of
want
course I
another
would.
dog.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're going to go there again, you might as well go back to where you know.
Oh, for sure.
And have had a good experience.
Every time, and I don't think I know of any story that anyone hasn't. That's one thing too is like we definitely want another dog. I love because he loves dogs, but he also has the only kid syndrome where he's my only child, so I don't want to see him. My biggest fear is I don't want him to feel like he has to like he's getting shared love. So how did is that something you dealt with?
We
How do you prepare for that?
I don't think you can.
Yeah.
I think you just got to figure it out. Sometimes I'll do, I'll walk them individually just so they don't feel like they have to,
Yeah.
be shared. And I always make sure that if if my husband's, for example, petting Zola, I'll call
Yeah.
Zoe over and like make sure that she's, getting a belly rub or whatever. Assuming she hasn't decided, you know what, I just want to go take a nap.
Yeah.
Because they,
Or doesn't care anymore.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes they'll just, crawl in their crates with the door open and have a nap.
Yeah.
But I find Zola is more of the attention seeker than Zoe too. Not that she doesn't want attention, but she likes it in much smaller doses.
Yeah.
And when she's had enough, it's okay. I'm gonna go grab a toy now. Just,
Yeah.
whatever. So.
Golden question for you. Are you a dog on the bed or off the bed kind of person?
Well, so Zola, we were dogs off the bed people for the longest time, and then Zola came to town, and that changed all of it. We tried, well, maybe not hard enough.
Yeah.
But she sleeps on our bed, and we did it for a couple of nights. We tried to shoo her off the bed, and we had a dog bed,
Yeah.
a very nice dog bed, I might add, and she just was not having it.
Yeah.
was not having it. And so when Zoe came, I said, oh gosh, I hope she's not a dog. Like, I hope she doesn't try to claim a space on the bed because
Yeah.
neither one of us are going to have any room. And fortunately, she took very nicely to the dog bed.
Oh, good.
So we have one on a dog bed that sleeps on my side, and then Zola is in the middle.
When Oliver is perfect in that aspect. When we both get into bed, Oliver will jump on the bed. He'll curl up and lay down at the bottom. The second the lights go out, we turn off our lamps. He jumps down, goes on his bed, or he goes in his crate. 'Cause his crate always just has the door open if he just wants to go in there, or he sleeps on the floor. He never like sleeps on the actual bed.
Yeah.
So it's like perfect. I also preface all of this. My boyfriend is allergic to Oliver, so and so we always joke about because he's like, oh, Oliver's on the bed. I'm like, yes, he is. Unfortunately, he was here before you.
Yeah.
So he will go on the bed wherever he likes
He wins.
to. Yeah. And he's very clean. He's a very clean dog too. Like we joke about it all the time. Like if it's, we'll take him out if it's raining out, we'll bring him back inside. He'll be wet and you'll smell him. And I'm like, he doesn't smell like a wet dog. He smells like his shampoo.
Yeah.
And so I'm like very lucky on that. He's a very clean dog. I'm like, thank God. I don't know if I could deal with a very stinky dog.
Yeah.
But yeah. So he's on the bed when he wants to be. I will never shoo him off the bed.
Yeah.
Zach may think otherwise on certain times, but Oliver knows knows his place.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're fun. I wouldn't trade. I like I said,
either.
I wouldn't trade any of them, and I feel like I'll always have little paws and dog bowls in my house.
Yeah, I will too. And I'm just grateful for who it's made me become as a person. It's funny that you told any random person that my dog really changed me, or my dog made me a certain person, and someone's gonna laugh in your face. But I think you're someone who would completely understand that they do change you, and they really become a part of your life and their family. But I can thank Save Lab for that. So
yeah. There's only one disappointment in having dogs, and that's when they're no longer able to be with us anymore. It's
yeah, I don't think and that's obviously I know like they don't live forever, and it's not always one thing I want to think about. Like I will sometimes like I'll come home and like I'll just like sit and play with them and I'll think about it and I'll start crying and Zach will walk in and it was like, what's wrong? I'm like, nothing. I'm like, just thinking about it, but don't want to think about it. But it's one thing that like I think one thing that will get me through is like he was my dog. I gave him this life. He had such a great life with me. And I'm sure if he would have went to anyone with the Save a Lab as well, like he would have had a great life there. But I think he was meant to be my dog, and
yeah. Hang on to them as long as you can.
Try to.
It's not long enough.
No.
It's not long enough.
No, and I wish it was. It's weird, as they get older. Like again, you had like a family dog. Did you have a dog growing up?
Yeah, we didn't have pets. I grew up in apartments, so we didn't.
Yeah. We had dogs growing up, and they were kind of just always there, and you grew up alongside of them, so you didn't really see them grow. You kind of just grew with them, and then they were gone, and that was it. And now I'm an adult, and I know where I'm at, but now I've watched him grow, and I'm sure I'll get to a point where I'll watch him slow down. And that day will be very hard, and I know it'll come at some point. So, but I think for right now, we just enjoy what we have and let him eat those table scraps, even though he shouldn't, but he does.
Yeah. Well, this has been fun.
Very fun.
Thanks for chatting with me.
Of course, anytime.
Yeah.
Glad to be here. It's fun to be in the Dartmouth office today.
We're fun people here in Dartmouth.
I'm all the way in Somerset, so
yeah,
come there sometime more, okay?
I will do that.
Sounds good.
All right.